Morning, Dan and Amy. And Amy, I was just thinking about this. We're so focused on talking about closing the chapter on the Clintons and the Clintons' political legacy, and then, of course, what Trump is going to do and the transition that is occurring. One thing that is worth discussing a little bit, contemplating a little bit, is the Obama legacy. Because here's Obama's political legacy.
Okay.
33 Republican governors. 2/3 of state legislatures controlled by Republicans. Plus 45 Republican in the House. Plus 4 Republican in the Senate. And now Donald Trump is poised to move expeditiously to bleach bit his policy legacy, too. Thinking about Obamacare. Thinking about the Iran nuclear deal. Thinking about executive action on immigration. I mean, this is going to turn out to be this 8-year period of President Obama is going to perhaps be remembered, if it's going to be remembered accurately by historians, as a boon to Republicans, maybe even, as Monica Crowley writes in the Washington Times, a second American Revolution, where he's relegated to a footnote in history, somebody whose gambits were endured only to be summarily rejected and eliminated from the country's consciousness after his departure. It's really, it's a fascinating turn in a very short period of time, basically since Tuesday. For more on this, we're joined by a man, I think, who's still recovering from his all-night coverage on Tuesday.
Yeah, he's got an election hangover.
He, of course, is Fox News special report host, Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. Chicago time. He is Bret Baier. Bret, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
Morning. So what about that? Just thinking about the political legacy, where the balance of power in this country stands as we stand here a few days removed from the November 8th election.
Yeah, I think President Obama's library got a fewer rooms maybe after Tuesday. I think you're exactly right. If you look at the state legislatures, it's amazing when you look at all the red on the board. And that's what a phone and a pen will get you when you do things around Congress, when you pass major transformational pieces of legislation without any bipartisan support. That gets you where this is. And I think it also perhaps gets you Donald Trump as a candidate who can win because change is the dominant factor. Change, even getting to that change.
And it also sets
that's what happened.
And it also sets up a bit of a cautionary tale for Donald Trump and the Trump administration in terms of, if you don't want to be in the position Obama was after the 2010 election, learn the lessons of what Obama did wrong between 2008 and 2010.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of things, a lot of different things about what's going to happen. He had, we're told, really good meetings yesterday. I had Speaker Ryan on the show to talk about what they're going to tick through, and there's going to be a ton of things that happen really quickly. I mean, this isn't the first 100 days. It's the first 10 days. Mm-hmm. And they're going to get, repatriation money from overseas. They're going to do a tax deal very quickly. I'm told that he's going to do more kind of presidential campaigning going into inner cities and African-American neighborhoods that have been devastated and saying it's time for this situation to change.
I like that.
So we'll see him a lot in Chicago.
And I think you may. And if he does that, it's a big if. You have to see what he does when he gets into the office. But if he does that into those communities, that could change the map even further. And the Republican Party in the future could be a totally different party.
Now, you live in Washington, D.C. You're there. How are your neighbors reacting? What's the vibe? What does it feel like in D.C. when Trump won? And how it's like starting to sink in and people are processing it.
What is that show, Walking Dead?
Yeah, that's the show.
So it was a little bit catatonic. This is obviously a deep blue city, and it is as establishment and elite as you can get. And it just, heads were exploding. And I think they still are, but now people are trying to figure out how they're going to get by. Washington is a town that there are a lot of politicians, but there are a lot of people who live here no matter who's in the office. Right. And now all of those people are trying to figure out who to know, what to see, like where to position. And it's pretty humorous that it's turned on its head.
You actually have some. There's a few and far between, but some members of the D.C. press corps that are engaged in a bit of self-reflection and are writing about it and talking about it. You even saw a member of the cast of The View engaged in a little bit of self-reflection, so that seems like progress. And I wonder. I was talking about this with our newsman Mike Scott, and maybe the press is rethinking some elements of it. Rethinking how they do their jobs, are so focused on being important and being on the presidential plane and so access driven versus doing their job and providing meaningful, consequential, and contextual content to the American public.
Totally agree. And I think there's a lot of reflection in the media. I think that, I think that middle America got it right. My wife's parents, my in-laws, and obviously all my brothers-in-law, and they live outside Chicago.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends in the Midwest. And they said, when we were talking about what people in Washington talk about this election, they said, you guys live in a bubble. That's not how we talk about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's right. And I think that, the bi-coastal media elite is going to have to change the perspective on so-called flyover country.
Yeah, I actually suggested that Donald Trump build a wall along the Marcellus formation to close off D.C. and into New England from the rest of America. But I get you out first, Bret.
Get me out first. Good. I tell you, it's going to change dramatically. There are going to be some bumps in the road, of course. This transition is a little messy. No one, not even the Trump people, thought it was going to happen. You had members of the Trump staff saying goodbye to reporters before the end of the night.
Oh, interesting.
It was great working with you.
Interesting.
Wow.
Very interesting.
And then look at how things turned. I mean, what was your reaction when you saw the numbers come, when you saw Florida flip for Donald Trump, you saw Pennsylvania go to Trump, Wisconsin? I mean, I was watching local newscasts here and then CNN too, and they seemed absolutely shell-shocked. And almost, Martha Raddatz on ABC News, she was brought to tears. She was. She was crying. I'm not kidding you.
I know, it's embarrassing. Come on.
So what? I mean,
it's really something. No, about 9 o'clock, we realized that the raw vote total was not what the exit poll numbers were, and it was not jiving. And I think Chris Wallace said it. He said, I'm just getting my head around that Donald Trump could be the next president of the United States.
Wow.
And at that moment, we started really digging into the numbers. It started happening, and I think when that big wall went up in our studio showing the graphic, Donald J. Trump, president, everybody just stared at it for a while. And it was hard to believe that the exit polls and all of the prognostication had been that wrong.
Let me ask you one other question. You may have some insight because of your relationships on the Hill and what you're hearing. Rudy Giuliani was on one of the Fox programs the other day talking about the question of the appointment of a special prosecutor by Trump Attorney General and continuing on with the 4 ongoing probes of Hillary Clinton and maybe reopening other avenues of investigation. Do you get the sense that that is something Trump is going to let fade away, or do you think he is going to move in the direction that he outlined in the debate about, doing exactly that, a special prosecutor and going after her?
I think if President Obama doesn't pardon her, President Trump will.
Really?
Really?
You think he'll formally pardon her, not just let it go away?
Right.
Really?
Oh, why?
Investigations don't just end. You can't. They just don't stop.
Yeah, right.
And I just think that's yes. I've just talked to a few people, and I think it's a tough call on President Obama's part, but not a tough call on President Trump's part, because it's about bringing the country together. It's about moving forward. It's about while no one's above the law, I think you are going to see this push to have that happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
I tend to agree with you. It's interesting, though, that that's what you're hearing. All right, he's Bret Baier,
He's
anchor
the
of Special
best.
Report, weekdays, 5 p.m. Chicago time. Bret, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
We'll see you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.